Hey, what is up? It is Rich. Happy Friday to you all. All right, let's continue our dive into the majesty, the magic, the imagination of Image Comics. I, I'm at a loss for words. How cool this comic book is. So this is Youngblood Strikefile #1. It's a flip book. Flip meaning that it's two stories in one. Die Hard and I guess I can't think of who this character is. Chapel, right? Um, what was I gonna say? Kelsey, check her direct messages, please. Sarah Frazetta is coming on this weekend live. You have to be there. I'm like baiting him. I'm like, I'll do a Mark Silvestri video. He has to watch that. Okay, I didn't hear back from him. All right, we're gonna pull out Jay Lee. Something's got to get him to watch a video. All right. Anyway, so let's get into this. My first thought setting up these files is what a fun comic book. The ads are fun. The letters column is fun. It's fun, 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 fun. It really is. I'm not just saying that because I don't have any kind of dog in this fight. These books are 30 years old. I'm just saying that, like, granted, I know, like I mentioned in the other video, there were problems with Image Comics. The stories, the art teams would bail out on stuff. Books didn't come out on time. There was a lot of issues. But at its core, what did come out is actually really entertaining and just so fun to look at. And anyway, let's get into this. I don't want to drag it out too much, but all right, let's go full screen mode. So this is Jay Lee's cover for his side of the book. I think we're gonna look at first though the Rob Liefeld stuff. So we'll see. But anyway, I set this cover up. I just wanted to make sure that it came through. It is an awesome piece. It's interesting too. Is I was thinking about shooting this video today. I was running through some scenarios, and one interesting thing that you can do if you're any kind of a historical minded type person is it is actually very, very interesting to seek out the last few books that a lot of these artists did at Marvel Comics or wherever they were working before they made the hop to Image, because a lot of them in as time has gone on have been able to tell the story. And the thing is what a lot of people don't realize is if you worked for Marvel and you decided to hop ship and go to Image, you had burned that bridge. You were done. You weren't coming back to Marvel. It was a very, very big no. And in fact, I started collecting kind of around this time. I even knew as a fan, and as I started to get interested in working in the business and actually like kind of like feeling out where I was gonna work, you had to be really careful, because if you dipped your toe in Image Comics, there was going to be a lot of doors that were going to be shut in your face in terms of other potential places that you could work. It's a weird part of the business, and people will obviously we always focus on the now, like this is what's going on now, and this is da 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 da. But I'm telling you, like comics really never changes as much as you think that it does. It really doesn't. It's a very cultish thing, and so there's always these like pop up cults. All right, so let's get into this. It's actually really trippy, and I know this is just an optical illusion on my part, but I swear, like, I never noticed this before, but you could almost picture like hair right here. I don't think it is, but it's like it's very weird. But like he's I think it's just the shape of his jacket. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Never really noticed it before because it's a weird shadow the way it's falling over stuff. It could just be the way that the splatter is, but it is trippy. I never noticed that before. All right, let's get into this. All right, we're gonna shut this and get into this. All right, so this is Rob's cover. This is a nice piece. I actually always thought that this character had a lot of potential. Honestly, um, normally speaking, I wouldn't be a big fan of anything that's this colorful. Just my own personal aesthetics. I'm not. Um, I tend to like darker stuff and stuff that's a little more um, sci-fi, and so classic comic book stuff sometimes isn't really my thing. But it's interesting. His hands are really big and actually kind of like nondescript. Um, I'm not going to sit and critique Rob's art, to be clear, but it is interesting seeing this after all the work that I've done lately. Like some good parts and some parts that I would disagree with, like how he handled it, but it's an exciting piece, and the character was really cool. I was always excited to see more stories with this character. And you'll see as we get into this, there's some ads for books that were coming up, and at least one I think never, as far as I know, I don't think ever came out, but still interesting stuff. And then this is the non chromium cover. I don't know if I'd ever seen the chromium cover. I'd have to go and check my books, but I think I just had like the regular version. So $2.50 cover price. Danny Mickey inks, super badass Danny Mickey. And all right, let's get into this. We've got some comic books now. All right, so let's look at the team. It's always kind of fun to see the credits and see who is lurking around at that time. Eric Stevenson is still with Image Comics as far as I know. We've got Steve Oliff on colors and Ollie Optics on colors. Danny Mickey on inks. Rob Liefeld on pencils, writing, and creating it. Lettering is Kurt Hathaway. I'm not familiar with Kurt Hathaway's name. All right, let's get into this. Kitella Avenue. I went there. I actually I assisted a guy for a brief amount of time that was coming up through Extreme, and I actually went to the offices a couple of times. I saw Dan Fraga there. I also saw Stephen Platt there. It was very exciting. I was just a babe interested in breaking in. So this was interesting. I saw this and I remembered this. I was never a fan of that headdress that he wears. Um, it's a little, I don't know. It's like he looks like a Pac-Man ghost. But this is a pretty exciting. It's a pretty exciting splash page. The big shot of Die Hard is actually quite badass in its own special way. Um, yeah, that's wild. Nobody drew like this guy. It's one of those things where the anatomy on the leg is funny up here. um, but yeah, it's like, look, a lot of times they'll say that like Image Comics was a bit of a nod to like Jack Kirby, and you'll see a lot of like credit going to Jack Kirby. But look, Kirby drew weird anatomy. I mean, Kirby was really solid and really good, and I'm not comparing like the qualities or what I mean, the abilities of Rob Liefeld versus Jack Kirby. But the thing is Rob can move his figure around, and although they're unusual looking, they are generally quite dynamic, and he knows how to fill a page in kind of a fun way. So boom. I like every guy that's reacting has the same exact facial expression. This guy's lip. Well, no, this guy's. Yeah, these guys both have the extra sort of like yeah. This is interesting. I'm excited to look at some of the other books too. This was, like I said, I wanted to look at the Jay Lee stuff mainly was why I grabbed this one. But this, like I said, I always like Die Hard anyway. So, and Glory was cool. I can't remember this dude's name. It probably says somewhere on the page, and I'm just not noticing. But yeah, I can't remember this character's name. But I thought Glory had potential. You know. Yeah, she's pretty cool looking. Honestly, I mean, I know it's probably like kind of like a Wonder Woman ripoff. I kind of like this a little better than Wonder Woman, to be honest. I mean, Wonder Woman's awesome, but I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of Wonder Woman's costume. Tank. I've had to draw a lot of different tanks. Mine are sci-fi tanks, but holy shit, I've drawn a lot. This is cool. These little figures are great. Actually, they're kind of fun. This shot of this guy flying in is actually very cool, and this too. Although it's a little bit of a weird kind of like shot. If he would have turned her just a tiny bit, it would have looked even better. But I guess they're running into the scene, and then this guy's cutting across. But yeah, this is nice. It's a nice running away pose, to be honest. They can be kind of a pain in the ass. Get it? No. And keep putting recommendations of books. I actually had a lot of fun. It's interesting reading people's stories on Instagram and Facebook when I plugged or was it, maybe it was Twitter, or I don't know, I think it was Instagram. Someone was reminiscing about like the smell of the comic books and opening up the bags and stuff. Like, this is great. And yeah, I mean, the thing is a lot of people have a tremendous amount of memories kind of encoded with this stuff, and it's exciting. Like I said, I mean, for me, Blaster Kid is way after the fact, but it's my Image book. I came, it's weird. I don't consider myself part of the Image thing because I came in a couple of years after it had already gone down. But the reality is that I'm an Image artist. There's no two ways about it. I came up, I worked with all the great people at Wildstorm. Jim Lee, I've inked Wolves Portacio for an extended amount of time. I worked with Wolves for like 2 years. I've inked Travis, J. Scott Campbell, Umberto Ramos. I mean, hold on, my phone's ringing. I'm just gonna look. I don't usually answer that. I have no idea who this is. But it's one of those things. But as an inker, you're never gonna get your own book. Although I will say that it was very exciting inking, even though it wasn't Nick Manabat, inking Cybernary with Jeff Rebner was really, really cool, just because of the fact that one, I was able to do a mini series. That was one of the first mini series that I inked, and then two, I respected Nick Manabat on Cybernary so much that it was fun to do. Jeff's style was nothing like Nick, but anyway, and so anyway, going back to this. This is exciting too. When you started to see these crossovers, I was a big Valiant fan, honestly, and what I liked about Valiant was the art was solid, but the stories were really good, and they were coming out on time. So you could get a fix from Valiant that you maybe couldn't necessarily get from Image Comics, but this crossover was actually kind of exciting. And it was okay. It was Deathmate, I think they called it. Yeah, Deathmate Red. There was 4 books, I think. Yeah, I mean, I collected Bloodshot, I collected Rye, I collected Solar, I collected Archer and Armstrong, I collected Shadow Man. I would read them all, too. I know people like to go, you never read comics. You say you don't read comics. I've read fucking thousands of comics. Trust me. I have time to read them right now. Go back to the old Todd McFarlane interviews and see what he said about reading comics. When you're in the fast lane and you're fucking cranking out books and you're doing God's work in comics, you don't have as much time as a fan to read comic books. It's just the reality. If you worked and drew comics all day, it's very, very difficult to have time to follow current books. But you try to catch up when you can. That's always the goal. I would love to take a 3-month, like if I had a summer vacation like you would when you were a kid. I'd love to have 3 months off and just live a normal life. But I'm an artist and I don't live a normal life. I just don't. This was interesting, so I'm just gonna point this out. These aren't drawn very well. Like, they're inconsistent. Like when you when you put logos and stuff like this, is just like I'll call this a pro tip. You really, really have to measure things and keep things consistent, because it's like these should be spot on. They're different thicknesses. They end at different things. I mean, I know it's a very offensive symbol, and I think he drew it backwards. I'm like, it's a flip of it, but anyway, but they're just not drawn very good. And so I tell people this when I do reviews and lessons for people. If you're going to take the time to put any kind of lettering or symbolism or anything, like if you decide to do a sound effect, you have to fucking nail it. You can't just half-ass it and sort of put it in. You'd be better off leaving it to the letterer to do, or whatever, if it's signage, and it says, Fred's TVs, you're not doing yourself any favors if you're putting it in and it's just really inconsistent, because it's distracting to me. When I looked at this spread, it's like I didn't see all the cool stuff. I saw these and I went man, those are really not drawn well. So it's a weird critique, but it's what I noticed first. You never want to do anything on a page that's going to pull people out of the moment. This is awesome. The colors are great on this. This is really, really cool. Fuck, man. What a great piece. The lighting on this is awesome. It's like light source, light source, light source, boom, boom, lights, and then reflective light coming from below. And if that wasn't enough, we're gonna throw in a couple more. But I do something similar on Crystal Planets. So I can't laugh about it. Sometimes you just need to get it in. But yeah, this is great. This is a really, really cool piece. This is nice. He actually, it's interesting. Like her face overall, her eyes are a little they're a little crooked, but she's attractive looking, and this is really nice. Said I've never really had a major beef with Rob's work. I never followed it that closely, but it is what it is, and I've when it's good, it's quite fun to see. This cape is funny too. That's one way to approach it, I guess, is just segment it, and then you don't have to deal with actually like the complexities of a cape. And again, all these light sources. It's so fun. Oh my god, we're gonna see so much cool shit. It's funny too, is so the flip book goes until issue 3. So issues 1, 2, and 3 of this Youngblood Strikefile are Jay Lee and Rob Liefeld. And then issue 4 is Jeff Matsuda draws it. And Matsuda is a guy that really, really kind of like fell off the grid in terms of like, I think fans knowing him. Matsuda is good though. I'm definitely going to do a spotlight on him. And in fact, it's ironic that this is a piece of his. But Matsuda is actually a really, really good artist and kind of has like the Rob Liefeld flavor with a little bit more maybe consistency and he probably had more to prove than Rob, but yeah, you if you haven't seen Jeff Matsuda's stuff, you're in for a treat because he's really good. This is nice, this is a very cool piece. Nice big drawings too. Like I said, it's for so many years when I worked at DC, unless you had artists that came in that were from this era of comic book artists, more likely than not, you really would never get big shots like this. To be honest, I mean, I did so many books where if they didn't come from this school of thought, you wouldn't really get that. And in fact, there was even some bounce back. I think sometimes editorially, like, we don't do that image thing, And I get it. I mean, it's like we're drawing comic books to tell stories, so you need a balance of the two. But I do believe that there is a way to do it. I mean, Batman Hush might be a good example of it, even though it's not an image book. But Jim always. That's one thing that I'll say about Jim, and there's many things I could say about Jim because Jim's a great artist across the board. Jim knows how to make originals. I'm referring to it as original art, but what I mean is Jim knows how to make pages and actually give like the big kind of money shots on them and still tell a pretty decent story. That's a balance that some people don't maintain well. This is not a bad shot. Again, nice big figures. There's only 3 panels on a double page spread though, but this is pretty cool. To have that much room to actually do that is actually pretty neat. This is cool. He just needs to work on his hands a little bit. I mean, this is 30 years after the fact, and there's other things he needs to work on. He just doesn't there's the form kind of gets lost in him a little bit, but there's not terrible. And then this is really nice. I mean, this is a really nice piece. It's probably based on something from Sports Illustrated or whatever, but it's still cool. I remember always being kind of like amazed at this stuff. Before I'd worked in comics, I was like, God, look at all the detail, the rocks, all the lines. And if you don't understand how to draw rocks, then you're doing stuff and you're just putting lines over everything, and it can be funny when you see people trying to do it and they don't understand three-dimensional form. All right, so now let's get into the Godfather of Darkness. Jay Lee. It's like Bisley and Bill Sienkiewicz had an evil child, and they named him Jay. Jay Lee. It just feels good to like write it. Everything about him is unique. All right, let's go. All right, so the credits on this one look fairly similar, except pencils and ink, Jay Lee. And again, like I said, if it's interesting because there's an interview with Jay Lee from Emerald City Comic Con a few years ago that you can find on YouTube. The audio is really low on it, but if you crank it, you can hear him pretty good. But he talks about kind of wrapping up his work at Marvel, and how much money Image Comics was going to pay him to come over. But again, you were burning a bridge that you were not going to come back from. You know, obviously time mended that with Heroes Reborn, but you know, at the time, you know, you were taking a gamble. It's like money up front, but you know, if Image Comics folded or you all of a sudden weren't offered a job through them, you know, you were going to be out of work for, you know, the foreseeable future. But this is really cool. Good stuff. I had a friend named Lance who had a real heavily influenced Jay Lee style, and was getting interest at Extreme, and almost got the Chapel book, the ongoing series. Someone else got it, but Lance was really good. And I inked some of his stuff, so I had been kind of developing some of these types of chops before I broke in. I have a spread somewhere that I inked over Lance. It's really badass. I haven't seen it in years, but I've got it somewhere. But someday I'll post it because I'm actually pretty proud of it. It's really cool, but it's this kind of a kind of look. Yeah, this is some wild shit. Really cool. It's two of my favorite Image books were Deathblow and anything that Jay touched, Wildcats trilogy, etc. That aesthetic really was appealing to me. It had just major balls, that Bisley oomph. You know, this looks like right out of a Bisley thing. Stylish. Look at that. Whoo, that is cool shit. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Tasty. I was always amazed too with like Stephen Platt and like how he could get like his tools to look so gritty. I think Stephen Platt used he used microns, probably 102 also, but I'm nearly sure that I want to say that he was using microns. But yeah, he would get a wild look. God, this is fucking great. Look at that. This is giving me Trencher vibes. Somewhere I have Trencher too, which I want to say I did a video on Trencher. I don't want to go out of this yet. Man, this is great. So he does have hair. I couldn't remember if he had hair, but he's got a little bit of the like that kind of a hairdo. So I guess that was hair in the thing. Or did Jay ever draw Spawn? He could have done a great Spawn. Fuck, man, like a Jay Lee Spawn miniseries. Holy shit, that would have been great. Yeah, Jay's awesome. The colors are kind of wild on this, but it's overall it kind of works for me. It looks nice. Yeah. You see what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of enjoyment that you can get out of this like $2.50 purchase. This is a lot of fun imagery, and just it's like the art and the story and the excitement and the energy of it all. Like I said, there's a letters column where people are writing in and talking about the things. It's just all You really felt like you were getting like an experience. Oh man, that's cool. Someone talked about the energy that they felt when they would buy like like it was a certain artist. I won't say the artist name, not that it matters, but anyway, but like how exciting it was for them when they would go to the comic book store and their favorite artist had released a new book, and you were driving home with it sitting on the passenger seat, and you just couldn't wait to go home and go into their imagination and see these just fun, incredible images and look at the color and the excitement and the story and the crazy characters, and it really was a lot of fun and quite entertaining, and a real fun hobby too. Like I said, Image was great at getting you excited about other things that were coming up or coming out, and that always made it really neat too. Is they had these great ads where you were like, oh my god, like that looks good, I'm gonna have to pick that up too. I'll get 3 copies. Some of this reminds me a little bit of like Dennis Cohen. Man, that's so good. This is really cool. Yeah, it's intense. And then the hand. Oops, I meant to grab the brush. The hand poking the phone. We've all had to draw it if you've done a comic book story. There's always someone hanging up on someone. This was the ad. So Doom's 4, I guess. I'm trying to remember. Did that comic come out? Mark Pacella. He was a pretty decent penciler. I remember that name and remember thinking that he was pretty good. Right. Let's see what we got here now. Oh, now look at this. To be continued. Brighten this a little bit. It's a pretty good cliffhanger, And Chapel looks just crazy. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, like I said, the letters column, which were always really fun. I mean, it was like almost like the liner notes for like when you would buy an album for people that are old enough to have bought in like LP records. Although the vinyl has made a comeback over the last like 10 years. But it's funny because people will say vinyl made a comeback like it just did. It's been popular for 10 years. People collect it and stuff like that. But it's sort of like that vibe where you'd read the comic book, you'd stare at the cover, you'd flip through it a bunch of times, you'd read the letters column, and it all was like part of the experience. And like I said, you really got some quality out of it. I used to remember coming home on New Comic Book Day, and it was probably in college at the time, and yeah, I would just put on like some music, get in a beanbag, and fucking go into like my comic world. I'd read all the books that I bought, generally that day, and it was just fun, really fun. So anyway, I always like to look at the names. Some of them probably are people that ended up being professionals and whatnot. So anyway, all right, you guys have a great day. I love you all. Remember, Sunday, super fun Sunday. Sarah Frazetta, hopefully Kelsey Shannon, and me. Yeah, it'll be a bummer if I don't get in touch with Kelsey. We'll see. You guys, what we're gonna do is tomorrow we're gonna blow him up. I'll do a video, and I'm gonna give the call, and we're gonna harass Kelsey on every social media and make sure that he knows. You could start today if you'd like. This will be the preemptive strike. He's a soft target right now. Tomorrow we'll go aggressive if we need to. But all right, you tweet Kelsey. Kelsey, you can't blow a Frazetta live video. This is too important. All right, I love you guys. Have a great day. Grab out some old Image comic books and take a trip down memory lane. All right, bye.